For something snug, tight, having a maximum impact, to be bloomed out as soft as a baby's bottom, it has to start with a seed that's so hard and compact. If you're doing this by jacking up an electric storm for cybernetics to be so soundproof that it would imitate the harmonics of that growth process, see, that's corrupt, because the reflection of that outbreak of electrifyingness would be like a sloppy copy. The opposite of the original being how like the ocean is the majority of all of the land. The ocean would have covered it if the beaches weren't there with its sand. The symmetry in the body is that there's so many. How much roadkill on the road is the importance of anatomy. How much of a splitting image is it when you're meeting your creator inside of a death point? Our bodies are made pretty symmetrically, whereas we got a nose, nostril there and another one on the other end. And so your sinus cavity checks out with a dual air correction. Even in eyes, they're one on side to the other. They actually crossed an inversion before they hit the brain to get popped up right and split to the brain's left and right hemisphere again. And what fine details. For any reason, there would be a book that says your kid can get a new meaning to life if introduced to Adderall, and then a picture under it saying his intelligence matches the schoolwork. Well, there's two infinities there that can go from Timbuktu and into an abyss if you don't know anything. But if you were to lay out the glands in your body, that's like a certain structure of all these things about would be equal to the embodiment of a jellyfish if it were stuck together, or a cow's stomach, because cows have like 5 stomachs and we've got like 5 major groups of glands. Why am I mentioning this is that if you're misinterpreting what an electric signal is and then using that as what it is to align, you would be misfiring the same way that cells misfire when things are thrown out of sorts. So all the pains and confusions are minimal at a homeostasis. When they're maximized, it's by stuff that has changed dramatically and they can't double check to reassure what the wrongdoing is, and so it would then subside to free will. And so if there's like images of the path of least resistance and you're getting blown to bits bit by bit, so in embracing a new system, you must diminish the old. And so when it comes to a cell response of, you know, how your glands have networks, they use a lot of electrochemical that's free flowing. So the more that you're jacking up what an electric signal is, you know, data that you see, you gotta see it to believe it. You know, what's turned on the TV, red dots, mascara, drama hour saying, please, it's our insistency that it's an artificial portrayal. It's the same as the right to assemble, but then what's the super spreader of it? It's the leaders in the world collecting to say that they've got the initiative as what's to say is dangerous or isn't, is a malpractice, and a scalping of, in your entire life, everything that you do is a super spreader event if you don't know how much. The difference between prey and then the animals that are preyed on is eyes. Eyes on your front of the head means that you're like a thing that is hunting, but it's the moment that like you start channeling out an existence in front of you, like turning a blind eye, that it's equal to you losing your vision and having your brain blown out, is where part of your eye would be subsiding to the sides. And this is what the prey have, the eyes on either side of their head, so they can look at where the enemy's coming from. And so in medical doctrine, this could be equal to that. Even though your eyes aren't on your side, there's people who are thinking that there are predators. To void out laws of nature just because science is not finished is something where it gives me the means to know insomnia and allergic reactions are two things that I've gotten. And though I'm not a professional lawyer or doctor, I feel the necessary need to share what I know from those two things, because I'm not giving advice on either of them. I'm just explaining how badly I was. And if you're being learned to subside to that, that is an inefficient way of, putting a band-aid over something that you need stitches for, quite literally, and that's that your internal core, devised with lipid nanoparticles, these things, nano, just brought to the forefront how science, we're so strong that we've created genes out of nanoparticles. So talk about living in a world that doesn't exist. How about amongst things that aren't real? So constantly subsiding to white noise, and you're not noticing what a rolling blackout is. So things of right and wrong goes thrown out the window. But to have the body thrown under a bus would be to not notice the change of your free-flowing blood, into the brain as well. All the glands shooting up their fluid dynamics and how important that is in being accurate in mobilities, to the sense of connecting two things gradually, coordination. And so if that's being scapegoated with a reroute of how much the electric componentries are influxing, up the spine, and how much data is registered electronically, your body could start turning off whatever it takes to get that same electric signal, even if that means confusing it with the free-flowing blood motion. Because if the free-flowing blood motion gets caught up and your body's second-guessing itself and would rather have the electric waves propagating in free motion, you're turning off the systemry of your own vitals in a shutdown, but it's trying to reboot, and that's what an ultimate second guess would be. I guess if your body was getting blown to smithereens, even though it isn't, it would be operating as though if it were. Makes life of a vegetable. So we've got a system of liquid, and when you pour that in halves, pour out half of it, keep the bottom half, add more in, and keep that half. So the halves in liquids is what concentrates the best in. And this is why in plants, it's when they're fruiting to find that same median, but it's codified within the collective of the plant. So the whole tree bearing fruit, you would have to take that ratio and pinpoint it out based on the surface areas of each of the fruits and the midpoint of the entire plant. That same thing is precise as can be if you're doing it with liquid and pouring out half and keeping half, and then adding in more of the water or the creamer if you're making a tea with cream in it, and the more that you're pouring in half to the large vessel and then pouring out half and keeping that, you're operating what a tree does